Hello everyone. I'm just making this video as a statement to the world and everyone else that's awake or that needs to wake up. These are just letters that I'm going to be reading from. There's an open letter, a letter of intention, a statement of truth and fact, and a pretrial testimony of truth, which also contains the writ of quo warranto. Just a brief story, or just to sum up what's been happening for the last 7 years, and most recently the last 3 years, and even more recently in the last year, last year and a half. I've gone through a lot of changes and a lot of growth. A lot of it's been uncomfortable. A lot of it has been challenging and very difficult. I am sending these letters to anyone and everyone that has any implied or assumed authority, power, or jurisdiction over the territory, the United States, America. I'm sending it to any and every agency, all the way, any and every agency within the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. I'm sending it to independent news media. I'm sending this to everyone on YouTube, just to share what I'm doing and to give evidence of just that I'm of my standing, evidence of a little bit about who I am and what I've gone through and what my family and I have experienced. And this is more so for friends and family to just get a quick cap on what's going on, which will help them understand a little bit more about what I've gone through, what I've learned, and just hopefully, if I'm not going to be kidnapped and brought to a prison or jail, or whether I am or I am not, it's all up to God. It's all in God's hands. He controls everything. He's got everything in control. It has nothing to do with what I do or don't do. The only thing I'm trying to do is find the truth, and with anyone that has an issue with me, or a disagreement about law, or the legalities, or whatever, that they would just honorably be willing to discuss it and settle the dispute without court, and in just an open discussion. I don't mind if it's recorded or if it's or in any other way. If anyone shows up public, it's better if it's public, because it inspires other people to think and question what is. I have nothing against government. I have nothing against anyone. The only thing I am against, like the scriptures tell us, is our battle is not against flesh and blood. It's against the wickedness and the darkness of this world. The things that divide us: greed and selfishness, corruption. Power corrupts men. That's just what happens. And so, I've just been making a stand in truth, doing my best as a minister for His kingdom. And I just wanted to share the stuff I've learned and the letters that I'm sending out through email and through actual general post. So I'll just go ahead and read each one of these into the camera, and each one of you can do your own research, or at least know the truth of what I'm attempting and what I'm trying to accomplish, and the purpose of what I'm doing is not just for me. It is for everyone. Um, I'm currently dealing with a very complicated situation in court and through the law enforcement agencies where I'm at, and there's a lot of corruption, a lot of confusion about what these men and women are allowed to do, and so my intention, as well as my other intentions in these letters and stuff, is to help everyone find the truth. Not my truth, but the truth. Because my beliefs may differ from the truth. The truth is truth whether you believe in it or not. It's just like gravity. You know, if you jump off of a cliff, whether you believe in gravity or not, the truth is the truth. So that is what I'm trying to find, and that is what I'm trying to encourage others to question and to research and continue to seek. And the challenge is dealing with ego. Everyone's got this ego that they're dealing with and saying, well, how dare you ask me these questions, or how dare you step out of line in this court, or how dare you. It's like, well, we're all equal here. You know, how dare I? How dare I what? How dare I ask questions? How dare I, you know, it's this whole mentality of this ego of being better than somebody, or being more knowledgeable than somebody. I know very little, and that's where I'm at. I'm trying to just find the truth in life, and I'm tired of just everyone willing to accept the status quo and just saying, oh, well, that's just how it's always been, or oh, that's just how we've always done things. So I've been researching for the past 7 years, and very vigorously for the last about 3 or 4 years now. And on this journey that we all call life, I've discovered a lot of things that I'm not getting answers to. A lot of questions that I have that aren't being answered. And I know in my heart what is right from wrong, and I know God's Word tells us to stand for what is right, and to stand in truth and righteousness, and to defend the innocent and to protect the weak. And it also talks about trying to settle your disputes. Settle your dispute quickly with your adversary before going to court. Now, the issue up here is I have made more than enough attempts to settle this matter peacefully and outside of court. And I'll just go through and read these letters. And if you guys have any further interest in it, you can research the stuff I'm reading and look it up. I'm not trying to overthrow anything. I'm not an unlawful enemy combatant. I am just a peaceful man and a minister for his kingdom, just trying to find the truth, following the leading of the Ruach HaKodesh, which, you know, a lot of people call the Holy Spirit, trying to find the truth, being as best of a steward I can be with the time and this life that our Creator has given me. So please just take the time to listen to what I'm going to read, and just do your own research. Don't take my word for anything. I'm not giving legal advice or anything like that. I am just simply sharing my heart with you, and hoping that I can influence and make a positive change. Alright. So this one is titled Open Letter, dated October 13th, 2015. Hello. I hope this letter finds you well. I have sent this letter to you or your office to seek your assistance as a woman or man in your individual capacity and in your professional or business capacity, to tell you a little bit about me and the situation. I am a man, united with woman, have 4 children. I have been traveling all over America as a minister for his kingdom, the Creator of heaven and earth. I am a transient and live on the go. I go where the Father leads me. I am peaceful and only wish to do my part to bring heaven, His kingdom, on earth. I have been studying a great deal over the past 7 years and have discovered many new things. I am studying about ombudsman right now, and I hope to help others with the information I attain. This path of study has opened my eyes to many hidden aspects about everyday life. I have discovered the truth about things like legal name fraud, residency, citizenship, de facto governments, political terrorism, individual sovereignty, birth certificate fraud, social security fraud, post office fraud, 501c3 government churches, and many other things. I have individually experienced the terror of political oppression, and my family has suffered from such terrorism. Over a year ago, my property was stolen by force without due process or just compensation, even before a conviction by a jury of my peers. This property was my life, body, time, means of travel, and shelter. I was then threatened and refused entry to the court to peacefully discuss the matters. Recently I was kidnapped and held ransom for $5,000 by way of fraud and racketeering by the involvement of the government de facto agents. I had a year prior attempted to attend a court to bring peace to the matters in question about the right to travel and the unlawful withholding of my property. After threats of violence and seemingly no remedy to bring justice to the situation, I moved on with the Father's business. By the tortious actions of the public servants impersonators, my family and I have been without means to travel and shelter for over a year. This has caused undue damage and intentional harm. Being a man of honor, I am open to discuss with any woman or man of any allegations of harm or damage I may be alleged to have caused. I have never caused harm, and there is still yet one to come forward. If the woman or man of the agency wishes to discuss matters of law, rights, justice, and freedom, I welcome open discussion of such, and have made myself available. Taking what does not belong to you by force, especially one's shelter and means of conveyance, because you disagree on matters of law, truth, justice, facts, and freedom, is no excuse. It is stealing. It is wrong. This is an excess of office, fines, and cruel and unusual punishment inflicted, a trespass on the right to be secured against unreasonable search and seizures, especially the deprivation of life without due process of law or just compensation, a trespass of equal access and equal protection, not to mention a deliberate deprivation of life in the pursuit of happiness. I am asking you to read the following documents, conduct an investigation, and take action to right this wrong. I want you to know that I wish for the repair and restoration of property, and if possible, treble damages for this tort. Please do what you can to bring the wrongdoers to justice, to preserve and protect freedom for present and future generations. See attached documents: letter of intent, statement of truth and fact, final notice, and pretrial testimony of truth. Letter of intention. Hello, Ryan Polniak, Richard Polniak, Mary Rain, William Small, Gary Alford, William Nelson, Kevin Wells, members of the press, witnesses, peace officers, and investigative agents. I just wanted to give you a letter of intention to be clear on things as we work out our differences in this process we call life. From one child of God to the next, I am writing you in peace, as we are both children of God, no more, no less, and equal under God. I am no paper terrorist or unlawful enemy combatant. I am your friend, a peaceful transient inhabitant on the land. I want you to know that I wish you no harm and want to make straight any lingering doubt you may have. I simply want to live with full enjoyment and responsibility of what God has given me to steward. This goes for everything I have in life: my time, my energy, my children, my earnings, my transportation. This is all private property. I do not wish to be harmed in any way or deprived of life, liberty, or happiness any more than you or anyone else would. Please take no offense. Regardless of any emotionally filled past between us or otherwise, I want to share with you the truth. I declare peace. I do not want any more conflict. I accept you as a peace officer, a keeper of the peace. I have caused no one harm, and have not breached the peace. I have not breached any lawful contract, thus removing any implied or assumed jurisdiction. I have been terrorized by political oppression over the past 3 years, through means of coercion, then penalized for not following statutes, rules, codes, policies, and procedures, through color of law, without my consent. Proof of claim, due process, equal protection, or equal access. Jurisdiction was not present during the kidnapping or theft of my private property, 26th of August 2014, nor could it be implied or assumed. My private property was unlawfully taken under color of law over a year ago and has not been repaired or returned, nor have I received any just compensation for use of private property. My attempts to settle this peacefully were only met with discrimination, threats, coercion, intimidation, and violence by kidnapping, assault, fraud, and extortion. Access to the courts, any documents, charges, files, records have been deliberately withheld from me. The process of obtaining such is at an unrealistic standard to hinder or delay access to such. Evidence and witness testimony has been deliberately and aggressively obstructed from the record by actions of men and women controlling the courts. I would like the truth. I speak the truth and expect nothing less from you. I am not looking for trouble. I only wish to defend freedom, preserve justice for all, and be a good steward of what our Heavenly Father has put me in care of. I have been trying to understand the justice system for many years now, and have been met with disdain for such interest and inquiry. As a man under God, I must stand for what is lawfully right, legal or not. Legal or not, as it is a responsibility of all who wish to call themselves the same. In honor, I must give lawful notice of my intent before taking any court action. Conduct your own investigation into these matters. In the interest of peace, truth, and justice, please see to it you do everything in your power to preserve and protect freedom for present and future generations. Thank you for your service. In brackets, I provide the what I am called, or what friends and family call me. I also write next to that sui juris, and I give the contact information, care of General Post Office, Non-Domestic Transient, Ogdensburg, New York Republic, and I've also provided my the email address and a phone number where they can get in contact with me. This next one is the statement of truth and fact. I'll start off at the top of the page. Evidence for the record, Court of Common Law. The date I wrote this was September 14th, 2015. Sent it to Ogdensburg City Court, 330 Ford Street, City Hall, Ogdensburg, New York, and their zip is 13669. As a special appearance in the matters of Ogdensburg City Police Department versus Patrick Hansen. This is a lawful declaration of peace. Attention, Gary Alford, Mary Rain, Kevin Wells, members of the press, and witnesses. See St. Lawrence County Clerk's Office of Public Records. Instrument number M-2014-00000106, M-2014-00000107, the same amount of 0 is 108, the same amount of 0 is 109. 4 different instruments. One is accepting of Kevin Wells, the Sheriff's oath to the Constitution, another accepting of Mary Rain's oath to the Constitution, declaration of an affidavit of truth, and the common law traveler judicial notice. You know, I constantly read these letters, and I constantly go back and read things that I put on public record before, and I constantly come across things that I learn new, and I say, oh, well, my intent was not to use that word or that phrase or that combination for what the legal intent is for that paper. So as a man, I make errors. We all can err, and we cannot be held to answer for something that we made a mistake on. So I'm very critical with myself about things that I have written, but the point is, I'm still learning to understand that we need to look at the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. Even in my own declarations for peace and my own declaration of independence and the way of doing it, it's the body of what is being said, and it's the idea, it's the concept, it's not the exact word usage. And I am still learning, as well as everyone else is still learning. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, watching this video and hearing what I'm reading off that has been sent out, or that is about to be sent out, there may be errors in it, legal, you know, errors, that, to my understanding and belief, I don't agree or consent to a lot of the legalese, court lingo that twists the words and puts, you know, creates an implied jurisdiction. I am just merely applying what I have learned, you know, putting it to paper and sharing it with those who seem to only respond to paper. Because there are brothers and sisters too, and whether or not they have a job with the state or government, they still need us as much as we need them. I'm not saying we need corruption, but what we need is we need brothers and sisters who are willing to love beyond their hurts and love beyond an offense, an easily forgiven offense, and move forward. Now, my situation is very difficult because as I have tried to move forward in a way of forgiving and letting things go, I am constantly brought back for discussion. That's what it appears. I mean, in reality, it is kidnapping, theft, extortion, you know, racketeering. It's this whole thing of conspiracy against what's right. And I don't mind coming and discussing things. I don't mind doing that, but if it's just going to be a matter of let's just beat this guy up, we all have an obligation to protect our bodies. It's called necessity to avoid harm in their terminology, or the terminology that's understood in court or by bar members. I really don't know. But as far as I understand, we all have a necessity to avoid harm, and biblically we have a responsibility to protect our body. We have a responsibility to protect what consists of our mind. And as men, if we don't take the necessary steps to protect what God has given us, we're not being very good stewards. So if we go to a court to discuss things, and there is continued infliction of harm, we all have a duty, not a right, a duty to stay away from harm. Now, I'm not saying things like, well, if someone disagrees with you and it offends you and your ego is hurt. I'm talking about assaults, physical and spiritual. I'm talking about the real world, spiritual. We all have an obligation to ourselves, number one, to protect our body, be it that this is the temple of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the one in us, and our soul. It is our temple, and we have a duty and an obligation to protect it, which consists of a mind, a will, and emotions. It consists of the entire process, every member. And so just keep that in mind. I'm getting distracted. I'm going on a tangent, but I just wanted to clarify that we all have an obligation to avoid harm, to avoid harm to our body, but we do have an obligation to our brothers and sisters on this planet to speak the truth to them, even if they harm us, even if they cause harm. And I don't believe that running away from avoiding or running away from it is going to solve any problems. I think being proactive and engaging with the court, even when you're not being asked to be present or ordered to appear, we should be engaging in every level of the community. Maybe not the legal society, which is, society nowadays is all in a legal fiction realm. But I'm talking about community. I'm talking about coming together as men and women and not letting our brothers and sisters get away with doing harm. And what I mean by that is not being God or taking vengeance. I'm talking about just asking questions and being honest with each other in a common law mindset of, we are all equal and no one has the right to take anyone else's property, without due process of law, as common law. If an old lady can't pay her taxes, you don't take her house and put her in a home. You leave her alone. You let her live in the house she built. You let her live there, and you let her descendants take that property. And if people are just going to abandon property, it becomes public. Anybody that needs it can use it. I can go on and talk about this for hours, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to share what I'm going to be sharing with a lot of the the so-called public servants or officers or law enforcement agencies or government, whatever. I am only against corruption and falsehood and lies. I'm not against government. Governments were instituted among men, and they derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. And they were instituted among men to secure the rights and properties of men, not to extort and enslave men. So, with that understanding, I just wanted to be clear that I am not anti-government, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form looking for vengeance. I am just looking to open the eyes of my brothers and sisters, whether or not they call themselves judge, officer, deputy, lieutenant, chief, whatever they call themselves, is fine with me. But everyone just needs to walk in truth. And once everyone starts walking in truth and is honest with each other, we can have a perfect utopian world. It would be beautiful. So that's my intention, is to wake everybody up to the truth. Because without truth you cannot have peace. Because there's so much confusion. And as long as we're in a state of confusion, we'll be divided, and there will constantly be war and aggression and hate and greed and fear, because there is no truth. That's why it is said, the truth will set you free, and you will be free indeed. So I got to go on to the next one here because this video is already getting pretty long. This one was the Statement of Truth and Fact, Evidence for the Record, Court of Common Law. I already read the instrument numbers here. Hello everyone. I am making this statement of truth for the record in my own standing as a sovereign man in sui juris. If you guys don't understand what that is, it's not a sovereign citizen. Sovereign citizen is it's an oxymoron. It's like saying jumbo shrimp. And sovereignty is divested in all of us as men. We all have the right to exercise sovereignty and be sovereign unto God. But a lot of us have been trained to subject ourselves to contractual agreements with the de facto government or the corporations that control the said government. And in a way, the scripture tells it as it is. A borrower is servant to the lender. Okay, so if you borrow from your fellow man through means of extortion by a corporation called government, you're putting yourself in a position of being servant to the lender. So as a servant to the lender, you're subject to him, whether you want to be or not. And as long as you take what doesn't belong to you, and as long as you can say, oh, well, they're giving me a benefit, or I deserve this, for whatever reason, you cannot all right. So there are benefits of being a citizen, right? So if you look up the actual definition, the lawful definition, the older the better, of what a citizen is. A citizen is someone that owes duties and obligations to the state, and they are subject to the sovereign. Now, the state can be sovereign, and each man and woman is allowed to be sovereign in their own right, as sui juris, you know. And I know there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I know that some men acting as sovereign citizens and things of that nature have caused a lot of harm. And they've actually shot and killed, according to a story I saw online, shot and killed some police officers during a stop. The guy's son actually came out of a van and just started opening fire. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what was happening off camera, but so I don't want anyone to live in fear from what I'm saying, because here is the truth. Fear only comes from lack of knowledge. That is all fear is, a lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding, a lack of knowing. So that is why darkness is so afraid. You know, you walking down the street and it's dark out. You know what you're afraid of? Not knowing. You're afraid of not knowing what's in the darkness because you cannot see. You know, the scriptures constantly talk about they have eyes but cannot see, and they have ears but do not hear. They listen but do not understand. You can put yourself completely out of fear just by gaining an understanding or starting to know who you are, to know that God is watching over you. When you put your life into His hands, it removes a lot of fear. And we are all still fallible. We are all still men. And I'm not saying once you put your life in God's hand that you will not ever have trials or you won't ever get afraid. But what I'm saying is, knowledge is power. The scriptures tell us that my people died for lack of knowledge. Without a plan, people perish. If you want to start understanding the importance of knowledge and wisdom, start reading Proverbs. One chapter of Proverbs a day. If you're not very good at reading your Bible, or you haven't read a Bible in years or never have read a Bible, if you start reading Proverbs one chapter a day, there's 31 chapters in Proverbs, and just read through. You don't have to believe everything you read. Just read through. Learn, study, expand your knowledge, grow, gain an understanding. It explains in Proverbs how important knowledge and wisdom is. See, for the system of tyranny to work, we all have to be kept in darkness in our minds. We have to be kept in a state of darkness and confusion, because that is what grows fear. That is what grows greed and hate and intimidation. That is what starts this thing that creates wars. Is this lack of knowledge, this lack of knowing. And I'm not saying that anyone else out there is not learning or knowing. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just saying, you know, after high school or college, your education should never stop, ever. You should continue to question in school it was, who was the authority in school? Well, the authority first was your parents, then it was the teachers, and then when you're in society, it is the government. Now, when you get to college, that's the transition between the authorities, your teachers, and the police. And then when you get out into the world all on your own and start having to take responsibility as a man or a woman, now it's called the police. Now, to be a good student, you must always question everything you're being told and taught and everything that's enforced, all the rules. And if you're not, then you're just a good slave. And there's nothing wrong with being a slave or being a citizen. Now, if you are a citizen and a slave, the scriptures tell us, if you are a slave, be a good slave, so that your masters may come to Christ by your goodness, or through your goodness, by your example. But, it says, if you have a chance to gain your freedom, do so and never turn back. Now, we all have to take our own exodus. We all have to go and talk to Pharaoh. We all have to say, Pharaoh, let my people go. Pharaoh was the government. Pharaoh was the government of the people, and they were in bondage and slavery. And there's no doubting, there's no denying that we were all born into bondage and slavery. But we have to all do our own war of independence. We all have to do our own. And this is all spiritual. This is not physical, people. We are not to be killing. We are not to be blowing up stuff. We're not to be doing anything that would harm others. Now, I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for flipping tables and making a little whip, and as the Messiah had done. But there is a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for everything. But you have to be walking in love. And you have to take a stand in the spiritual to stand against that which is wrong and that which is harmful and not contribute anymore. Now, like I said, if you're a citizen, and I mean, I'm not trying to offend you by using the word slave, but a citizen owes duties and obligations to the state, and they are subject to the sovereign. If you are sovereign, don't abuse either word. Don't call yourself either or until you understand what it is, and until you have taken action, because action speaks louder than words. Okay? And regardless of what people say about you or think about you, you are responsible for you and your own actions. Now, you can do something and say something different. Your actions speak louder than words. That is why the scriptures say you will know them by their fruits. When you, with their mouths, the scriptures also say this, with their mouths they worship me, but in their hearts they are far from me. So you have to know in your heart who you are, and you have to take action in the present moment for establishing who you are. So don't go out there and use the information I'm sharing with you and get yourself in all sorts of trouble. When I came across a lot of this information, it really woke me up, and I was so upset about the lies and the fraud that had been pulling over all of us and have been perpetrated and cunningly brought against us all and put us into this system of slavery, which the scriptures tell us, we were removed from Egypt as a people, as God's children, and we have been put back into a form of bondage. And we're not supposed to. So whether you believe in the scriptures or not, or whether you understand what I'm talking about, or you agree with me or not, the truth is that we all have choices to make. And the only thing we could ever really own in our life, ever truly own, is our choices. We cannot take anything with us to the afterlife but our choices. We will all give an account of what we did with our time. Good and faithful servant or wicked servant. We're all servants of this planet, and we're all brothers and sisters, whether we agree on things or not, whether we beat each other up or not, whether we imprison each other or not. We are all still of one consciousness, of one great spirit, and that's our Father. And He put us all on this planet to get along and to be good stewards of this planet and to be good servants of what we have. So that was my little rant of clarification on a few things. Hello everyone. I am making this statement of truth for the record in my own standing as a sovereign man in sui juris, as the final, most recent, and accurate pertaining to this matter as of today. I am an emancipated free man, and have rescinded all joinder jurisdiction, constructive, contractual, assumed or presumed, with the state on public record. I have also made a conditional acceptance of the oath of office by members of the judicial, legislative, and executive branches of government, as well that of the DA and sheriff. I am at the common law and do not consent to courts of contract, or the court or judge changing the jurisdiction of the court from anything other than common law. With a full and complete reservation of rights, duty, responsibility as a man, husband, and father, I am proceeding in this manner under threat, duress, tort, and coercion, as the living man, as well as a witness for the name fraud, aka trust fraud, for the purpose of peace, truth, justice, and freedom. The charges and proceedings against me are defamatory, erroneous, malicious, spurious, frivolous, and without merit. I claim as an effect infringement, encroachment, impeachment, and usurpation by way of tort. I, the living man, have been mistaken for the legal person, aka legal fiction, aka legal name, aka CQV trust or KSKV trust, aka constructive trust. This is all the stuff I have learned, you guys. Okay, I have learned all this, and I have put it down on paper, and I'm making sure that you all and everyone involved in life understands that I am not going to claim to be this legal person. I'm not going to sit here in fairy tale land and pretend like no one ever created a legal person, or that the legal name Patrick Hansen doesn't exist in their fiction world. But I'm making a clarification that that is not me, okay? I am alive. I am not two-dimensional name on paper. I am not letters. I'm not words. I'm not a sound. I am living. And so is everyone else who claims to be. You have a choice, and we all have a choice. I'm not going to live in fairy tale land and pretend like no one ever created a legal fiction in the hospital when my parents were tricked into signing something that didn't really understand and there was no full disclosure. I'm not saying it wasn't all fraudulent. What I'm saying is that sitting here and pretending not to mention such a word is such a name. I'm expressing this frustration because of men and women I've talked to in different online that have this, it seems to me to be verbal diarrhea, that it's just they've learned that this whole legal name thing is fraud, and so that's all they can shout and scream. And I'm still learning. I'm not saying I know everything. In no way, shape, or form do I know. I know nothing. But I'm trying to the best to live in a way that I'm standing in truth, according to God, not according to some legal statute or code, but according to what's right and wrong, according to following right over wrong, and doing what's true rather than what's false or fiction. So, back to, I, the living man, have been mistaken, either as legal fiction, I read all that. In brackets, I have put Patrick Hansen in standard format, and then in all capitals, etc. Any other form, Pat C. Hansen, whatever, any other way that they can try to claim that that is the legal fiction, or that I am in any way the legal fiction. To the best of my knowledge, this is a state-created fiction, aka trust, by the birth certificate and other legal papers which create the legal person or trust. As a legal person is defined in law as a fiction, and the true synonym is lie, well, the antonym is truth. And to live and walk and stand in truth, I cannot be or claim to be or participate as a lie. That is wrong, and I cannot do that. Now, I'm not saying that my parents don't call me by a combination of words that sound similar to this legal fiction, because that seems to be an error that is occurring. I don't care what anyone calls me, but I know who I am. I am not some legal fiction in law. I'm a creation of God, as we all are. The only reason this body's alive is because He put His soul into His spirit into us and gave us a soul. That's the only reason this body exists. Or functions, anyways. Okay. As such, I must stand in truth as the living man. To the best of my knowledge, I am... Okay, so this is, to clarify, to the best of my knowledge, I am, as a living man, or was, the intended beneficiary. And that is why I clarify right here, and seek further truth on this matter, because that is to my understanding that some people, I've heard arguments online and different forums that some people claim that we have right to the birth certificate, and that was a trust that was created for the living man by those as public servants. And if you're going to act as a slave, they're going to tap into your account that they created for you that you're not tapping into. I've also heard arguments that it belongs to the state, it's not ours, and we can't, as we the people, cannot tap into something that which we didn't create. For that which you create, you control. So I just to the best of my understanding, from all the information I have gathered, the intended beneficiary was the living man, but it may not be currently, or may not be still, or maybe it never was. I don't know for certain. I don't think any of us are really ever going to know for certain anything until we have met our Creator. So we will, to clear up all. Let's see. I'm going to turn this off. I keep getting calls from random numbers now that I've put this number out here for people to, once I sent out information to different agencies and different people, or different men and women in public service. Now I'm getting random strange phone calls from people with different languages and stuff. So I'm sure it's I'm not sure, but it seems to me that we have some childish public servants that are just taking private information and abusing it. Okay, we will clear up all this confusion and harm inflicted by means of extortion through coercion to solicit me to commit constructive fraud. To the best of my knowledge, I am not the trustee or administrator of the constructive trust. As far as I know, the state is the liable party. I'm still learning all this stuff, guys, but this is what I understand to the best of my understanding and knowledge. Let us get something straight. The details of my life are private. But to bring peace and understanding, I will share this much. Before I was born, my mother and father decided that I should be called Patrick Christian. Now, this may seem similar to the state, person, or trust. That is not the same. Again, I am the living man, the expressly intended and designated beneficiary of the trust. Now, I have learned that it may not be the actual fact here. That is why that's why I put this disclaimer down at the bottom of every page on this document, that words herein are that of my own understanding, or of my own standing and belief as I understand them. All rights reserved to my understanding, definition, and written agreement. So I'm not claiming to know everything. I'm just sharing what my knowledge and understanding is, and what I understand, and I'm asking for clarification. I want to seek further truth on this matter. Let's see here. This is also the beneficiary of the trust, which in another form is constitutions that were created, the original organic constitution that was created to restrict government, restrict corporations, and protect people, or we the people, the men and women, that is outlined in the trust, the Constitution. Okay, I am called, not named. Corporations are named, and I just put that in there to make a clear distinction. And in brackets again, Patrick Christian, of the bloodline or heritage Hanson, a private man, non-resident, non-domestic, non-person, non-individual, non-subject. I am a spirit, I have a soul, and I live in a body. As a transient on this planet we call Earth, this body is living by proof or evidence, the breath of life, the flow of blood, and the expression of my soul. I am not a slave or dead corporate fiction of law. a state-created entity. God gave me this life in full allodium as the sovereign king. I claim complete and total ownership of my own body, mind, goods, services, monetary value, intellectual property, energy, resources, time, and life. I am a free man, standing with full rights, duties, and responsibilities of self-governing and right of self-determination. I am standing on the truth and defending freedom in the interest of love, peace, and justice. I have come to learn that there is a great equalizer. The great equalizer is truth. My mother always said to me, "The truth will always find you out." And that is truth to all. Truth is truth whether you agree with it or not. The pure intent in my heart is peace in these matters, past, present, and future. I am with a clear conscience. And then I go on to the in this same document, the judicial notice, witness testimony, evidence questions, and truth discovery. As a matter of equal protection, equal access, and due process, I have a list of questions that are necessary and relevant as evidence in this case. A reply from both the prosecution and the judge pertaining to these matters are required as a discovery matter to establish a meeting of the minds in a common understanding. This is a necessary investigation to shed light on these matters to establish truth and bring forth justice. The answers need to be lawful and not a personal opinion, but as matters of fact in law. I hope that we can all find clarity and act lawfully as the desired outcome. If a failure to honorably respond, I claim for the record that each one be preserved as an appealable issue. Alright, and here we go with a list of questions for discovery to be informed of the nature and cause of the claim against me. The nature and cause of it. Because I have no clarity, I have no understanding of what is going on with this traffic court. I don't understand what is happening. And so I'm here asking questions for discovery, putting them on judicial notice. This is also a testimony, a witness testimony. It's questions for evidence, and it's part of discovery, so that we can, clarify that. Once jurisdiction is challenged, can a court proceed any further without lawfully establishing jurisdiction? Can a court act as prosecutor in his absence? What are the essential elements required by law to issue a bench warrant? If no plaintiff is present, the court is obligated to dismiss by default, correct? Does the plaintiff have to prove a claim exists for the court to establish jurisdiction? Is this a court of equity or a court of law? Is this a court of record? Is the court administering a constructive trust? The judge is administering the trust, correct? The position of the prosecutor is the trustee as an agent for the state, correct? The defendant is the expressly and intended designated beneficiary of the trust, correct? The trustee holds all liability for the trust, is that correct? Is the court required to lean in favor of the common man as a protection against abuse of office? What are the required elements of a crime? What happens when there is no complaining party? Can the court accept a claim with no merit filed in bad faith? Is it lawful to issue an arrest warrant for a civil matter? Is it lawful to imprison a man for a civil matter before a trial by a jury? Is it lawful to have a man arrested without a valid warrant? Some of these repeat in different ways, but they are very important to be answered in the ways that they are changed because it brings clarification. So it may sound redundant, but it is. But the purpose is to bring clarity to what's going on, and for full discovery. Let's see here. What elements are required for a lawful claim in equity? Is there a man or woman present that has a valid claim of harm or loss against me? What is an example of arbitrary or subject matter jurisdiction? What are the required elements of a lawful contract? What does it mean to give full disclosure? Am I to understand that the judge is colluding with the officer's attempted extortion? Am I to understand the prosecution is attempting to collude with the judge and officer's attempted extortion? Is there proof of an original bill in existence? Is there proof of a breach of a lawful contract? Am I presumed to be innocent of every element? What happens to the charges if there is a failure to produce a complaining party? Is the court going to produce the bond so that I may be indemnified? When can the state convert a right into a privilege and issue a license and a fee for it? What jurisdiction does the court have when a sovereign man is brought into the court? Where can one get a license to practice law? Can anyone in the court produce a license to practice law? Is a judge required to be licensed to practice law to be on the bench? What monetary percentage does the judge get for every case he handles? And I think this pertains to traffic court, which is what I'm dealing with. Is the court attempting to draft me to performance as a legal person? Is it lawful to compel a man into involuntary servitude? Can the prosecutor or judge face impeachment for fraud? Is this court an inquisitional system or an adversary system? Is it lawful to be a judge if practicing law as judge pro tem? If no plaintiff equals no conflict, the court must dismiss, correct? What is the lawful way to notify a defendant of a court date? What lawful elements are required to prove proof of service was acquired? Is a non-resident subject to state statutes or codes? Is it lawful to penalize a man for the exercise of a basic right? Can the state produce proof to have jurisdiction over me, the living man? What is the meaning of the word bar, as in NYSBAR? What is the max punishment for impersonating a public servant? Is it lawful to imprison a man before he is convicted? Is it lawful to imprison a man and enforce pennage? Is there a conflict of interest as both the prosecution and the judge are both members of the same law club, aka NYSBAR? Is it lawful for the court to fish for evidence by asking discovery questions? Can the prosecution prove that I am the holder in due course of the legal person? Isn't it true that the state is the last holder in due course of the legal person? Can the defense refuse the prosecution's argument for cause by failure to produce an original bill or contract? When the court is held for want of jurisdiction, it must dismiss the charges, correct? The role of the judge is that of a disinterested third-party trier of the facts. Is this correct? Can a judge face impeachment for breach of ministerial duties? As I am presumed innocent, the burden of proof shifts on the prosecution, correct? If the prosecution fails to prove her duty and be present, what is the only lawful recourse for the court? Is it lawful for the judge to attempt to represent the state's claim? If the plaintiff does not appear, is it lawful to dismiss the charges as being abandoned? Is it lawful for the judge or court to argue in the state's favor? Does the New York State Motor Vehicle Code apply to non-residents or transients? Is the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Act a voluntary program? Is the legal definition of driver imply that one is for hire? Is the legal definition of a motor vehicle imply it is used in commerce for hire? Is it true that a driver's license is commercial in nature? Is it against the law for one to travel in their private automobile without a license when not for hire? If there is a mistake of fact, can the court dismiss the charges on these grounds? Can the court lawfully dismiss the charges on a necessity to avoid harm? Is it lawful for the court to dismiss the charges on the grounds of officer's subjective conclusion? The court can dismiss the charges for failure of prosecution to prove, I maintain the office of person, by default, correct? Can a free sovereign man be subject to legislative statutes without a lawful contract? The court can lawfully dismiss charges that are frivolous and without merit, correct? The court can lawfully dismiss the charges upon discovery of misrepresentation of office of person, correct? Upon discovery, the prosecution must drop or withdraw charges or face impeachment, correct? Once denied due process, equal protection, and equal access, jurisdiction immediately ceases, correct? How does the court lawfully protect against abuse of police powers and the creation of intentional conflict? Did government create man, or did man create government? For what purpose are governments instituted among men? Is the creation of government for the benefit of man, or man for correction? Is the creation of government for the benefit of man, or man for government? Can the state have jurisdiction over a man without a valid, current, and lawful contract? Is the court for protection of men? Is the court for the protection of men, or for the favor of unjust enrichment by the state? If the judge is made aware of criminal use of the court and ignores such, does he not thus forfeit his retirement, office, position, and face fines and impeachment or imprisonment? What is the insurance information for the court and DA's office? What are the standards of conduct as defined by the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct, operating procedures and rules? Is the court or prosecutor attempting to conspire against rights or deprive rights under color of law as defined in 18 U.S.C. section 241 and 242? If the Supreme Court has already ruled on a matter, can any other courts try the same matter again? What happens to jurisdiction or validity when an abusive pattern of practice becomes apparent? What are the legal advice guidelines for public inquiries? Can a court lawfully determine its own jurisdiction? Is it lawful to hold office in America with prior obligations or previous oaths that could compromise the office? To be a bar member, one must swear an oath to the bar, correct? The letters for the word bar stand for British Accredited Regency or Register, correct? Has the judge and prosecution taken the oath of office, form number 69? When an oath is sworn to two constitutions, what one holds supremacy? Constitutions are created to prevent abuse of governmental power or system, correct? What is the contact information for the Special Inspector General for Bias Matters? What is the contact information for the State of New York Commission on Judicial Conduct? Is there a treble damage rule in law when money is paid under duress and with all rights reserved? As a failure of the prosecutor to establish culpable mental state, the court must dismiss the charges, correct? What is the purpose or protection of the Miranda warning? What is the protection at law that states evidence gathered without a Miranda warning is not acceptable as evidence? What are the essential required elements for law enforcement to establish identification? Is it a felony to use emergency lights in a non-emergency situation? Are members of law enforcement or other officers above the law? Is it the duty of the judge by oath to protect against abuse of the judicial system? If the prosecution did not witness the alleged charges, everything for prosecution would be considered hearsay, correct? When a conflict of interest arises between the plaintiff and the judge or court, can the court hear the matter? What is the definition of a political prisoner? Are police officers required to keep the peace and not fabricate conflict? What happens in law when one ignores a previously issued cease and desist order? What is the punishment for impersonating a public servant? What is treason by sedition of the law? What are the required elements to establish probable cause? Would it be considered criminal framing if the plaintiff conspired the effect and cause of the charges? Can the DA claim she acted in good faith if I have accepted her oath of office on the county record? Can public servants claim they acted in good faith if they have been put on notice by public declaration on county records? Can the courts claim they acted in good faith if they discovered the matters are void for lack of evidence to the contrary? Can the police claim they acted in good faith if they neglected to know and follow the law and uphold the sworn oath of office? Motion moved, demand for dismissal. I do not wish to further encumber this court with these spurious, frivolous, and erroneous charges that mock the rule of law and waste otherwise potentially valuable court time. The charges lack the elemental fibers of a crime, or that of culpability, thus having no merit. To prevent the mockery of justice and preserve the faith in the justice system, I move this court for immediate dismissal in the interest of justice and the preservation of the public trust. if not rebutted within 10 days by lawful evidence, a written response on and read into the record in an open and public hearing. To the contrary, this document is at law evidence that the court has not joined the true party of interest and a dishonor default exists. This establishes evidence of a willful tort. Failure to present evidence to the contrary of this testimony will be evidence that all parties stipulated in the facts herein are true, correct, and complete. That all assumed or presumed jurisdiction ceases immediately, and that all charges will be considered without merit and abandoned, thus dropped and or withdrawn or dismissed with prejudice. Authorized mark, the living man, in brackets, Patrick Christian Hansen, sui juris, all rights reserved, September 14th, 2015. Okay, so that was that. The next one is the final notice cover page. Now, we have posted our van. We posted for sale, and we posted for a service fee for those who want to use it. If someone were to take it and use it, there was a fee, and it was posted on the van. One was a land usage or property usage fee of $10,000 per day, or any part thereof. I may be wrong, a little wrong on the numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but it's either $5,000 or $10,000 per day, or any part thereof, for property usage fee. And the van was also for sale for $200,000. And according to rules and law, the first taker accepted the contract. It was a contract offer displayed on the van for those who wanted to accept the offer and accept the contract would take the property that was explained or defined in the contract. So that was displayed. It was put out there, and so by default, the city of Ogdensburg purchased our van or has rented it. And if they purchased it, there was also on my my public record that I put on there that anything that puts me in a position of duress because of tort or anything like that, with all rights reserved, I reserve the right to charge. I'm pretty sure it was $1,000 or maybe even $10,000 for the usage of my property, without consent and under duress. And so that fee applies as well, because it was public notice, public knowledge, and they use the same argument that ignorance of the law is no excuse, and it's binding contract law. So, with all that information, this is a final notice cover page to just get their attention that they are breaking the law. They are not only breaking all their rules, policies, and procedures and codes, they're also breaking natural law, God's law, common law, and contract law, which, I'm not money hungry, but it seems there is a language in the system, and the language is money. And a lot of the times it's hard to get through to men they only see dollar signs everywhere they look. And if they don't see something that's either gonna take those dollar signs away or add those dollar signs to get bigger, they will not pay attention. The truth is, I have every lawful right to follow through on this claim of $8,960,000 or $12,410,000. I have every lawful right to follow through on this claim, and they have every lawful obligation to pay as the city of Ogdensburg, or those who are acting on behalf of the city of Ogdensburg. So this is a final notice cover page. It's dated Tuesday, October 13th, 2015. Final notice cover page. Attention. Please read the attached final notice, page 2, as my last attempt to make peace. Man being harmed, all rights reserved without prejudice. It states what I'm called there, sui juris, my contact information, and another reservation of without prejudice underneath that. It states it names, for the most part, all the aggressors involved: Ryan Polniak, Richard Polniak, their contact information; Mary Rain, her contact information; William Small, Gary Alford, their contact information; William Nelson, his contact information; Kevin Wells, his contact information. It also has a carbon copy information of who else I sent this to. Final notice cover page. Tuesday, October 13th, 2015. To the ones I just previously mentioned. Because of your actions, involvement, or failure thereof, I have been harmed and have had my property stolen from me without proof of claim, jurisdiction, due process, without lawful authority, under color of law. Please make this right and have my property repaired to proper working order and returned within 30 days. If you fail to do everything in your power to remedy this wrong, I will be forced to file criminal charges as well as a counterclaim on all the men and women involved will be held responsible. I wish to settle this matter peacefully and do not wish to bring the charges or this claim, as I have stated before, if at all possible. This is the final notice of grace and forgiveness upon full and complete remedy of my property within the 30-day time limit. As per common law traveler's notice, $8,760,000 at $1,000 per hour. That's what it was, $1,000 per hour for the past year. Number 2, as per my notice of purchase agreement for said private property, $200,000, evidenced by the acceptance of goods. And number 3, as per the notice of property usage fee at $10,000 per day for the past year, is $3,650,000. So there's a purchase total of $8,960,000, and there's a property use total of $12,410,000. And it lists the instruments that I stated earlier: the common law traveler judicial notice, the declaration of affidavit of truth, the acceptance of Mary Rain's oath, and the acceptance of Kevin Wells' oath. If there is a full, complete, and honorable remedy to the restoration of my property within 30 days of this final notice, the above debt will be permanently forgiven, and no further action will be taken upon anyone involved in their private or official capacity. Be it known, we have been very patient, peaceful, and gracious through this suffering, as we have been without our property for over a year. My family and I have suffered greatly for peace in these matters. I wish for the complete restoration of my property. See to it. Thank you. Your failure to right this wrong will be evidence of your involvement as a conspirator in the criminal proceedings, and you will lose the protections of your office for operating outside of your official capacity. This will put you in a position of strict liability in your private capacity. You may also be subject to further penalties and charges by your administration or other Justice Department. Peaceful solution. Honorably repair and restore my property within 30 days of this final notice. I provide contact information there, and another reference carbon copy of who I sent all this information to. And here is the final paperwork that I have recently put together that will be going out today. This is the writ of habeas corpus, judicial notice, demand for dismissal with prejudice, evidence testimony, pre-trial rebuttal, writ of quo warranto. Tortifessors, wrongdoers, public servants: Richard Polniak, police chief; Ryan Polniak, police officer; Jessica Rivers, police officer; Faye Jenks, police sergeant. Their contact information: Lisa Meyer, court clerk; Lisa Evans, assistant deputy counsel; Andy Hollis, court officer; James Monroe, magistrate or administrator; William Small, magistrate or administrator; Gary Alford, magistrate or administrator. Their contact information: Mary Rain, district attorney; William Nelson, city mayor; Kevin Wells, county sheriff. In brackets, I have Patrick Christian Hansen versus City of Ogdensburg, case number 101-66377. This is to the Ogdensburg City Court, Ogdensburg, New York. In brackets, I have the next case is City of Ogdensburg versus Patrick Christian Hansen, case number 2014-5951. By the statements of facts and laws contained in this writ of habeas corpus, judicial notice, demand for dismissal with prejudice, effective evidence, testimony, pretrial rebuttal, Judicial objection. This court is so moved to immediately dismiss all charges with prejudice as a matter of honor, fairness, peace, justice, and freedom. I wish for the immediate restoration of property and for fair and just compensation. Review the following and take right actions. Defective prosecution. So there's three sections here. There is defective prosecution, there is defect in accusation, arrest, or information, and there is defective court. Again, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to overthrow. I'm not trying to cause any trouble at all. I am merely standing in truth and seeking the truth. Okay, so let's go through this. Defective prosecution, number 1. Improper venue. Unconsented administrative, not judicial proceeding. So they are in an administrative proceeding, and I have not consented to that. They are not in a judicial proceeding. They're not conducting judicial proceedings, which I don't consent to administrative hearings and administrative proceedings. They're let's see, without the United States, on the land, not in the state. So I am without the United States, on the land, not in the state. So they're pulling me into a foreign court. They are a foreign court and foreign to me. So it's improper venue, number 1. Number 2, dishonor of discussion for conflict resolution. Now I have attempted multiple times, well over 3 times, to discuss this conflict outside of court and peacefully settle the matters. I was told by someone that was employed by the district attorney's office, came out of their office and sat down and talked with me. I didn't actually get his name, but he was an agent for the district attorney's office, an agent for the state, and he told me that they need me to plead at court for them to follow through with this whole process, because I went and I offered to pay full. I offered to pay the full price of whatever damage I caused, and whoever I harmed, I was there to make right any claim of wrongdoing. But he told me that they need to use the court to get me to lawfully pay them, or something like that. But the general idea was that they needed me to go through the process and use the court process. He said otherwise it would just be extortion. So they need to use the court system to get money from me. Otherwise, it would be blatantly obvious that they're committing an act of extortion. So they're using the court for extortion. That's 1 + 1. I mean, that's my logic to it. All right. Number 3, breach of Brady rule. Let's see, what was the Brady rule again here? It was, I'm pretty sure it was the obstruction of evidence. The judge cannot see evidence. This is Brady versus Maryland, 373 U.S. 83, 1963. We've got number 4, contempt of court. Intentional creation of conflict. Use of court to instigate conflicts. So that was back to what I was saying before about dishonor, destruction, conflict resolution. They did not want to. Okay, that's all right. All right, breach of the Brady rule. Sorry. All right. So wait. So contempt of court, intentional creation of conflict, use of court to instigate conflict. So they're using the court system, the justice system, to intentionally create conflict, even after a peaceful attempt to settle. So there's no controversy because I've agreed to pay. I've agreed to pay. I just want to meet the injured party and pay them and remedy the wrong. Right the wrong. So that's the contempt of court. Now back to breach of the Brady rule. According to Brady versus Maryland, 373 U.S. 83, 1963. Requires prosecution to disclose material materially exculpatory evidence in the government's possession. So they're required to allow discovery, basically, but they don't. In the government's possession to the defense, Brady material or evidence the prosecutor is required to disclose under this rule includes any evidence favorable to the accused. So anything that is favorable to the accused has to be disclosed. The only thing that they have given me was finally, what was it, last week or the week before? I finally got the actual written statement from the officer that is bringing the alleged allegations. I finally got access to that. And it's been over a year and a half, I think. About a year and a half, it seems like. Maybe it's a year and 3 months, a year and 4 months. Evidence that goes towards negating a defendant's guilt. That would reduce a defendant's potential sentence, or evidence going to the credibility of a witness. And this is at Cornell University here. If the prosecution does not disclose material I'm having a hard time saying this word. Exculpatory evidence under this rule, and prejudice has ensued, the evidence will be suppressed. The evidence will be suppressed regardless of whether the prosecutor knew the evidence was in his or her possession, or whether or not the prosecutor intentionally or inadvertently withheld the evidence from the defense. The defendant bears the burden of proving that the undisclosed evidence was material, and the defendant must show that there is a reasonable probability that there would be a difference in the outcome of the trial had the evidence been disclosed by the prosecutor. Okay, so I've already proven that by all my previous statements, by their lack of obstruction of discovery. So by their pure obstruction of discovery, I haven't even been able to get anything. I just recently got the statement of the officer that has, you know, the claim of allegations against me, or against the legal fiction, anyways. Failure to produce license to practice law. That's under defective prosecution. Violation of constitutional right to a speedy trial. Selective or vindictive prosecution. Criminal theft of travel and shelter by ex post facto laws. Bill of attainder. Error in the proceedings or preliminary hearing. No show and misnomer. Conflict of interest. Court and prosecution financed by the same company. State. Conflict of interest. Court and prosecution members with the same legal interest. Bar. Failure to appear. Default dismissal. Lack of conflict or disagreement. 13. Obstruction of discovery. Implied jurisdiction ceases. 14. Trespass of constitutional amendments. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Or no, that's 14. 12 and 14. Number 15, failure to notify by proper service. 16, no proof or evidence of consent to courts of contract. 17, withholding bond information for indemnification. 18, lack of first-hand knowledge to the allegations, equals hearsay. 19, conspiracy against rights. Alright, the next section is defect in accusation, arrest, or information. Joining two or more offenses in the same count, duplicity. Charging the same offense in more than one count, multiplicity. Failure to produce an original bill. Trespass of double jeopardy at common law of we the people. Lack of specificity. Breach of the Brady rule. That was with lack of specificity. Evidence by coercion equals duress equals inadmissible equals no evidence. Obstructing justice. Intimidating party, witness, or juror. You can look this up at more information on this. 42 U.S. Code, Section 1985. Trespass of protection against self-incrimination. Failure to properly identify accused as consent to office of person. Improper joinder, use of emergency lights in a non-emergency situation. No Miranda warning equals no evidence. Entrapment in the execution. Criminal theft of travel and shelter by ex post facto laws, bills of attainder. Lack of jurisdiction, fraudulently assumed and presumed. Refusal to identify or produce oath of office. Impersonation of public servant or office. Failure to state a cause of action for which relief may be granted. No leading claimant or injured party. Void for lack of personal service. Failed to invoke the court's jurisdiction. Suppression of lawful evidence, testimony, witnesses. Withholding or preventing discovery. No evidence to a binding lawful contract. Allegations for hearsay and lack of merit. Failure to prove actus reus or mens rea. Theft of private property without corpus delicti. Premeditated conspiracy against rights. Next section is defective court. Obstructing accused from access to court equals jurisdiction is lost. 28 U.S.C. 452. Equal rights under the law, 42 U.S.C. 1981. Number 2, intentional infliction of peonage, 42 U.S. Code, Section 1994, peonage abolished. 18 U.S.C. 1581, peonage obstructing enforcement. Number 3, prejudicial vindictiveness to presumption of innocence of all the elements. Number 4, quasi-judicial administrative tribunal without consent. Number 5, this is Latin, a species juris non sunt jura, which is legal niceties are not law. So, again, legal niceties are not law. Number 6, trespass on right to effective assistance of counsel. Number 7, preemptive prejudicial position, subjective conclusion. Number 8, extortion through peonage by way of coercion, threat, and kidnapping. Number 9, trespass of exclusionary rule, complaint lacked required lawful element. Complaint lacked required lawful evidence. Number 10, breach of disinterest or impartiality, obstruction of a fair trial. 11, collusion or interest with prosecution, moving forward without prosecution. Conspiracy, acting as or in interest of defendant, prosecution, and administrator. Conflict of interest, court and prosecution financed by the same company. State, conflict of interest, court and prosecution members of the same legal interest. Bar. 15, arbitrary abuse of office, issuing fictitious obligations. 16, trespass of right to life, bill of attainder, United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. 17, criminal theft of travel and shelter by ex post facto laws, bill of attainder. Void for want of jurisdiction. Obstructing justice, intimidating party witness or juror. Breach of Brady rule. Failure of due process, equal access, equal protection. This equals jurisdiction ceases. Failure to honorably surrender jurisdiction. Refusal to identify or produce oath of office, 28 U.S.C. 453. Impersonation, public servant or office, refusal to provide constitutional oath. Trespass of constitutional amendments. Judge pro tem disqualification for practice of law at the bench, 28 U.S.C. 454 and 28 U.S.C. 455. Breach of the standard of conduct, Title 22 NYCRR, Part Section 7000.9. Party to intentional conflict. Trespass of protection against self-incrimination. and by discovery questions. Contempt of court through obstruction of justice, intimidation of witnesses. Excessive bail equals unjust enrichment equals extortion equals involuntary servitude, which equals excessive fines. 32. Infliction of cruel and unusual punishment. 33. Withholding bond information for indemnification. 34. Theft of private property without a conviction, without just compensation. And 35. Conspiracy of rights. Boy, the problem I'm having is there is just way too much corruption for me to keep up with. You know, I'm not trying to point out everyone's faults. I'm not trying to point out that these guys are just trying to make money. They're just running a business. They're just trying to make money, and they're just, right? They're just doing their job, right? Well, that's the Nazi soldiers said. You know, they said, well, we're just doing our job, you know, we're just pulling that lever, releasing the gas, you know, pulling the trigger, just doing our job. That was no excuse. I mean, as far as I know, no man and woman is required to obey an unlawful order. And it is not right to do wrong, to force people into penance or make them surety. And I mean, it's all wrong, and everyone knows right from wrong. It's on our conscience, it's on our hearts. We all know right from wrong. But sometimes men who have been doing something wrong for so long and hasn't been questioned, someone like me comes along and questions that, and I'm looked at with contempt. I'm looked at with prejudice, and there is a lot of disdain for someone who just makes waves or goes against the current, whatever, you know, cliche thing you want to say about it. I'm just standing in truth. I'm not going with the flow, because the flow is not honest. The flow is not truth. I'm just taking a stand on truth, and I'm not trying to condemn anybody, ridicule anybody, challenge anybody's rights or authority, except that of criminal behavior. So if someone says, you know, I have a right to be the administrator in this court, okay, fine. But what does it have to do with me? What jurisdiction? What have you proven that you have some more right to this body than me or God or my wife? So by what? Because some implied, assumed and presumed consent? Come on, let's be real. Just be real, man. If you want money, you guys don't have to go through all this charade. You don't have to go through the charade. I offered to pay. Listen, produce an injured party, I'll pay. I won't even dispute. I don't care. $5,000? It ain't mine. No, we can't actually own nothing. So I'm not trying to thumb my nose at any man. I'm not trying to thumb my nose at the system. I'm not trying to be disruptive. I am merely pointing out the truth, okay? Whether it offends you or not. And I'm sorry if you're offended, but the truth isn't easy, and it's not always fun, okay? I've experienced that. I have not had very much fun in this whole process of standing in truth. I have had more stress in my life doing this than I've ever had in my entire life. Going with the flow, whether right or wrong, is easier, but it is not the right thing to do. So, again, I'm not trying to thumb my nose at anyone. I'm not trying to look down upon anyone. I'm just trying to state facts and truth and show that if this system works, the established system of justice, if it works, you have to follow the rules that are set in place for that system. For those who are officials and work through that system, if they've consented to be part of that system and go by those rules, you have to follow your own rules. I mean, come on. If you want any citizen or man or woman or sovereign or anyone, Joe Blow, to come into your court and have any respect for you, you have to respect law. No man is above law. And I'm talking about real law. And if you subjected yourself to those policies and procedures and statutes and codes and ordinances, and you are well aware of it, and you put yourself in that position as a public servant, then that's your choice. You know, you have to follow those rules because you agreed to it. Now, this information, I'm not going after anybody. So let's get some facts straight here. I was traveling to get food for my family. Okay. And property was taken from me by force. My window was busted out. My body was smashed to the ground. I was held against my will. My life was stolen. And every time I had to go back to this court, they were stealing more of my life without just compensation. There was no injured party. It's all fraudulent. But I'm still trying to I am still standing in truth, and I'm still doing what's right. I was withheld from going to the court. They would not let me in the court. So I moved on with Father's business. Went about and just moved on in life. If they're not going to let me in court and they're going to figure it out on their own, that's on them. I'm moving on in life. I tried 3 times to get the van back, talking to the men and women that work for the Augsburg City Police Department, with no results, and just a lot of threats, by the entire system, and I moved on. And during our travels, we were back in this area, and they kidnapped me for failure to appear in court, is what they said, and then ransomed me for $5,000 and imprisoned me. And through God's grace and mercy, we were blessed with the $5,000 to pay the ransom, and so I am still trying to get that back and give it back to and return it to its rightful owner, or user, or whatever, steward. So I just want to be clear that I'm just trying to do what's right. I'm not trying to get anyone thrown in jail or get anyone charged or get anyone. But you know, I have an obligation to follow through on what is just and to do righteousness by God. So I have an obligation, even if I don't want to. I have to. I have to do what is right, and keeping criminals from hurting others, keeping men and women who are behaving criminally, keeping them accountable is something that we all must do. So let's get just the facts. I have been wronged. I am not the wrongdoer. Okay? There has been a tort brought against me. Their actions and behavior has been tortious. They have committed an act of violence against myself, and the effects have taken place. It's affected me, it's affected my family, and it's affected the whole system. It brings down the faith and credit people have that the justice system works. So if those of you that are in the justice system still want the people or the citizenry to have faith in your system, or in the system of law that is a mock court, or a de facto court, or whatever you want to call it, traffic court. If you just want to be able to take your citizens and deal with them how you want to deal with them, you need to at least follow some of your own rules so that they still believe that the system is working for them rather than the other way around. I understand what's happening. That there are citizen slaves, and a lot of them are just unaware of it and given the illusion of free choice and free will. And I'm also aware that anyone who is not part of the citizenry is really, really harassed and brought down upon and looked negatively upon. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm going to just continue reading this. An action by Department of Motor Vehicles. This is a quote from Doolin v. Carr, 125 U.S. 618, as well as City v. Pearson, 181 CAL 640. An action by Department of Motor Vehicles, whether directly or through a court sitting administratively as a hearing officer, must be clearly defined in the statute before it has subject matter jurisdiction. Without such jurisdiction of the licensee, all acts of the agency by its employees, agents, hearing officers are null and void. Here's another quote from Schomig v. Kaiser. It's SCHOMIG v. KAISER. That's 189 Cal 596. Agency, or the part sitting for the agency, which would be the magistrate of the municipal court, that was in parentheses, has no authority to enforce as to any licensee unless he is acting for compensation. Such an act is highly penal in nature and should not be construed to include anything which is not embraced within its terms. There is no charge within the complaint that the accused was employed for compensation to do the act complained of, or that the act considered a part of the contract. Here's another one from Thomas v. Smith, 154 SE 583. When acting to enforce a statute and its subsequent amendments to the present date, the judge of the municipal court is acting as an administrative officer and not in a judicial capacity. Courts in administering or enforcing statutes do not act judicially, but merely ministerially. A judge ceases to sit as a judicial officer because the governing principle of administrative law provides that courts are prohibited from substituting their evidence, testimony, record, arguments, or rationale for that of the agency. Additionally, courts are prohibited from substituting their judgment for that of the agency. Courts in administrative issues are prohibited from even listening to or hearing arguments, presentations, or rationale. That is ASIS v. US 568 F2D 284. Another quote is from Burns v. SUP, CT, SF, 140 Cal 1. Ministerial offers are incompetent to receive grants of judicial power from the legislator. Their acts in attempting to exercise such powers are necessarily nullities. 18 U.S. Code 1581, Penage obstructing enforcement. A. Whoever holds or returns any person to a condition of penage or arrests any person with the intent of placing him in or returning him to a condition of penance shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. If death results from the violation of this section, or if the violation includes kidnapping, or attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, the defendant shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for a term of years or life, or both. B. Whoever obstructs or attempts to obstruct, or in any way interferes with or prevents the enforcement of this section shall be liable to the penalties prescribed in subsection A. Now, I'm just going to keep going on. I wish for the immediate restoration of property. Please see that justice, peace, and freedom prevail over color of law, quasi-de facto corporate power, oppression, and political terror. Claimant wronged, the living man, what I'm called, care of General Post Office, contact information. For the record, if the de facto court proceeds to take property without just compensation, the right to trial by a grand jury of the accused peers are hereby established. The accused exercising his right to recover treble damages, all rights reserved without prejudice. That is that, everyone. All the information contained in this video is private, privileged, and confidential. It is all, to my understanding, to my own standing, definition, and belief. I am not to be. This video is not to be used to be compelled to be a witness against myself. In a lot of these codes and rules that say stuff like no person shall be held, I am not claiming to be a person, but the fact is that the court or the administrative tribunal or traffic administrator, magistrate, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever they call themselves, or whatever they're acting as, they are after the person. They have no jurisdiction over the living man. So if they are going after the person and they're putting the person back to penage, the person that they're saying that I am the person, which is it's a lie. They're committing an act. So I just wanted to clarify that I am not a person as defined by their legal codes and their legal rules and their legal definitions. I'm just a man, just a living man. That's all. And yeah, so I hope this video clarifies a little bit about what's going on, a little bit about what I've been doing, what I've been up to, and this video is for private viewing only. It's private property. It's my intellectual creation of things I put together, and I just don't want this information to negatively affect anything that I'm involved in. I just want it to have a positive outcome, and I hope that everyone who's watched this video will see the truth in what I have shared, whether or not you believe it, or whether or not it's your truth. I just pray that everybody finds the truth and stop. It doesn't take someone's word for it, and that we all just stand in truth, regardless of what other people are doing. That is my prayer, that we all just stand in truth, and by doing so we protect each other, and we prevent tyranny, and we prevent terrorism and corruption. And I would really encourage you guys to look up the word terror, find out where its origins came from, and you know, if you think you're free, I mean, I don't want to advise you to do anything other than what's right, but if you think you're free, I would challenge you to do something that you think is an exercise of freedom and see what happens. Again, I don't want to cause trouble for anybody, and anybody that wants to be a good citizen, you just keep being a good citizen, and you just do what's right in your heart, and don't disrupt courts because you're just you just learned some things and you're frustrated and you have some questions. Just continue to be peaceful, but walk the path of truth and discovery. Start walking the narrow path, and start asking questions like, what am I doing with my life? Am I just another, another brick in the wall? I don't want to be another brick in the wall. I want to be someone who's fixing things and helping things, and helping us all discover our own talents and abilities that our Heavenly Father has put us here on earth to experience. We haven't been put on here on earth to be part of a system that just grinds men to their old age, to their deathbed, and then you look back and you're full of regrets of what I could have done, what I should have done with my time. Just be peaceful, everyone, and any law enforcement or agencies or anyone watching this video, listen to the heart of it. I mean,
I want us all to get along. I want every one of us to get along and to live peacefully. I want us to stop getting divided against each other, cops and citizenry, or cops and people, or dividing in race and color and gender and creed and religion and in sports teams and all these different divisions, because to conquer a people you must divide them. And if we're going to be divided, those who have the worst intentions are going to rule over us all. That's the truth. And unless we all wake up to the truth that we're being played big time. We're being played. They're playing on our egos. They're playing on our emotions. They're playing on our fears. Squash that fear with knowledge. Start overcoming it, and ask your Heavenly Father to give you wisdom, to give you strength, to give you courage to break free. And while I'm talking about law enforcement, I've been studying about law enforcement. I've also done some study about the gang mentality of law enforcement. I'm not saying that everyone in law enforcement is a gangster or acts as such, but you got to ask yourself, guys, what am I doing? Am I doing good or am I doing bad? Is it right or is it wrong? And see through all the BS and all the stuff that they pull over your eyes to distract you. See through it, man. Just overcome it through studying, through just observing. I mean, we're all the same. We all are the same. So I'm trying to come up with a handbook for law enforcement to be able to stick to their constitutional oath without fear of repercussion from the agency, without fear of getting fired, and be able to secure your job as a public servant without fear of repercussion. And I'm working on it. I don't know when I'm going to get it done, or if I ever will. And I don't know if there's already one out there, a handbook for law enforcement to be honorable, to be the public servant that they were created to be when they took that oath of office and the oath of the Constitution. I want to provide a way for members that are in a gang-style group to be able to protect themselves from what usually happens in an average gang. If you go against what the gang policies are, or if you start asking questions, or if you start seeming like you're leaning to be part of the other group, which is for we the people, and you're not following the gang leader's rules or orders, there are punishments, there are penalties, there are actions that will be taken against you, especially if you start trying to be honorable and a real public servant. So I'm trying to make a book, a little pocket guidebook for law enforcement, because you are my brothers and sisters, okay? Whether you're caught up in this idea of the American dream, or whether your ego is challenging you or trying to get you to keep a divide between us, I want you to know that I am trying to help everyone. Okay, I'm not trying to harm anyone. I want everybody to learn and to grow and expand their knowledge and expand their consciousness, and just know that life is more than this ritualistic, systematic, just head banging on the wall program that we all have been a part of, that we all have been tricked into, or in one way or another. There is more to life than this, and I hope that I can get that done. And if you guys can send me information or ideas on how I can put this handbook together, or any law enforcement that want to just share with me what fears they may have if they actually start following or start protecting the people and not the corporations, and start protecting and start upholding their oath to the Constitution, rather than being a mercenary or a hired gun. Send me your fears. Let me know so I can target those in the handbook and I can create a book that can be for all law enforcement, anyone that's a part of any law enforcement, the Army, anyone that's in a public service, anyone that's a clerk. Just send me a message or post a comment, of whatever fears you have as a public servant. You can do it anonymously so that you're not reprimanded or gone after. But I need to know things like what's stopping cops and law enforcement and Army or soldiers and military. What's stopping you from doing what's right? Is just pick a few things or 5 things. Make a whole long list if you can of what's stopping you. If it's fear, then we'll just focus on sharing truth in the handbook. And define what fears of not having a job, fears of this. I want to try and find protections for you guys that will keep you from being penalized in ways to get compensation if your job security was taken away from you. If you just bought a house and you got a mortgage payment, even though all that stuff is crazy, ridiculously unlawful and all that, that's a whole nother topic. But if you're trying to take care of your family and you're afraid if you start doing what's right, you'll lose your job, then we need to find protections for you guys that's easily understandable and available right there in front of you, that you can put in place to protect yourself and stand by. So yeah, this video is mainly just to share with my family and friends what I've been doing, what's going on, and for anyone else out there that is on the same journey for truth. Yeah, I just felt I needed to share this information before I send it out. I've sent out a lot of it already, but there's a lot of new information that I have not sent out, and I'm going to be sending it to, I'm still working on the list here, but I'm going to be sending it to every agency and department that's involved, that's not involved, that should be involved, that could be involved, that won't be involved, that can't be involved, and I'm sending it to a lot of different news agencies. And I'm sure a lot of people have this, they get a lot of requests from people sharing information, but I believe this is the best way, is to educate each other, is to share information, and to not withhold anything out of fear. And so that's why I'm doing this. I don't want anyone to be afraid of me. I don't want anyone that calls himself a judge or a cop. I don't want anyone to be afraid. Anyone can come talk to me, and anyone can discuss anything they want with me. And I don't want anyone to be afraid that I'm going to harm them. I don't want anybody to be afraid that I'm going to come after them and take everything they've ever worked for. But I do want everyone to know that I will not stand for corruption, and I will not stand for dishonesty. I want all of us to just be honest with each other, and that's what our Father wants. We all just need to be honest with each other and be truthful, because if we can't have truth, we can't have peace. If we can't have truth, we can't have life. We can't have success. We can't have thriving. We have the system that is depressive and oppressive, as long as we're not honest with each other, and as long as the truth doesn't reign. So if this information encourages you guys, just take your own stand, be peaceful at it, just start asking questions. Just like when you were in school, you ask questions, ask questions. Just like when we did the Exodus, according to the scriptures, the Exodus, Moses went to Pharaoh, let my people go. Well, what God told you to? Who's the name of your God? I am. I am that I am. Okay? So we need to do our own Exodus, and we need to take our own responsibility. We need to start taking responsibility for ourselves, and we need to start doing things to provide for ourselves and stop depending on the government to provide for us, especially if this is not the government that we have voted for or elected or want to participate in. We really just need to start taking a stand for what we believe in and not be afraid. And baby steps is better than no steps. Okay? Baby steps are better than no steps. So start with an area that interests you or perks your curiosity. Start asking questions. Start inquiring about why. For example, when you go to court and the judge enters the courtroom, why does everyone stand? Where did that come from? Where did that originate? What is the real purpose behind it? And don't just do a plain search and just accept what you see, the first search result you get. Really search. Really do an in-depth search. Find out if the court has it in the rules, the policies, the procedures, the codes. Find out, ask questions, do inquiries, and just start discovering the truth. And don't just believe what everyone says, and don't be afraid. The only thing to fear is the lack of knowledge. Some say that the only thing to fear is fear itself, but fear is there because of lack of knowledge. So gain knowledge, gain understanding. Ask our Father to give you the wisdom and knowledge and understanding you need to overcome fear, and He will give it to you. You have not because you ask not. Well, at the end of the video, I hope you guys are all doing great.